Hello everybody and welcome on in here to our user group webinar covering the Compare and Analyze reports in the Donations module. My name is Jim. I'm coming to you on a warm but damp day here in Columbus, Ohio. Before we go ahead and get started with our 20-minute presentation here today, a word or two about our GoToWebinar control panel that you have on your screens there. It's got a little red button in the upper right-hand corner with an arrow icon on it. Clicking that will allow you to either minimize or maximize that control panel. Minimizing is going to give you a little more real estate on your monitor to see the things we're talking about in our presentation here today. Maximizing that's going to give you access to the features there in that control panel, such as the questions box there. I will be kind of on my own for the purposes of this webinar here today. So 2 requests about asking questions as we go through this. Try to keep them on topic for the compare and analyze reports that we'll be discussing here today. And I probably am not going to get to those questions until the end of the presentation here today. So after the 20-minute presentation, I'll leave the room open for a little bit longer to answer any questions that kind of piled up as we go here. Okay. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and open up our donations module. Here under the tab, let me maximize this. Here under the tab along the top of our screen where it says Reports and Export, we have several subheadings here. When you click on the Compare and Analyze button, we've got a series of 5 reports that is going to be the basis of what we're discussing here today. Compare and analyze reports in general are going to, sing it with me, compare and analyze different giving amounts, different pledging amounts, either across years or between different individuals or different campaigns. So we're going to start with the Pledge Giving Analysis report, which is on the top of that list, which gives us the ability to very powerfully filter which givers are going to show up on this report, as well as the type of information that we're going to be displaying on here. This is sort of a giver-centric report that is going to compare giving versus pledging. If you choose to, it can be just a giving-only report, or it could be a pledging-only report. You have that ability to control that on this report. There's a series of tabs that go along the top of the screen, and we'll briefly touch on each of those before we take a look at our report. The very first one at the top here is this Giving and Pledging tab here, which is where you filter the time period where you'll be showing the gifts during, as well as whose records are going to show up on here. So we'll see over here on the right-hand side of our screen, this is where we set our date range. So that's when those gifts are going to show up. We have a pretty limited amount of data here so far in our 2017 year. So I'm going to click my minus year button right here to set our year back to 2016, and we'll take a look at the giving from that year. In the upper left-hand corner here, you set what kind of filters are going to be placed upon giving and or pledging on your report here. It's going to default underneath the Giving Include header to only those who gave. So that could be 1 penny on through $9 million plus, right? If you set this to Giving Include All on this section here, then that is only going to be, that's going to be regardless of giving. So that includes people who have not given as well as those who have. You can also set a specific range if you chose to, only those with giving between a certain amounts here. So it could be $50 up to no upper limit if you chose it to. Any number of other things you can do there. You can also set it to those who did not give. There's also a pledging section below there that works exactly the same way. Pledging Include All basically means that we do not care whether somebody pledged or not. They will still show up on this report. That's the default. Only those who gave plus pledging regardless of whether they have pledged or not. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it at those default settings for when we run our first report. The second tab is the Givers tab that lets you filter further based on sort of demographic data from the membership module. In the upper left-hand corner, if you click on your down arrow here, here's a series of all of the fields that you have available from the membership module. So you could limit this based on any criteria here. For example, if I scroll down here to the status field, I could limit this only to my active members, for example. I could put a check mark here, click my plus selection, and now it will only report on folks who are listed as active members over in the membership module. That's just an example. I'm not going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to remove that line from my report. There in the upper right-hand corner, you can limit it to only folks with giver numbers or envelope numbers. Set it to a range. Over on the right side, folks from the member file and the visitor file. I'm going to go ahead and also include any donations individuals or donations groups as well on my report here. There's an accounts tab here where you can limit it only to specific giving accounts from your donations module. By default, you'll see listed over here on the right hand side that all accounts will be included. Anytime you then limit any further, for example, if I wanted to report on my general fund, I could select that on the left side underneath available accounts, click on my right arrow button, include that over on the right side underneath selected accounts. Now I'm only reporting on my general operating fund giving account if I were to do it in this manner. All right. And again, I'm just going to include all of my reports for this. The next tab is the columns tab, which is really where a lot of the flexibility for this account is going to come through. You'll see over on the right side next to underneath where it says visible columns, it's going to show us giver number and giver name, the total amount that they have pledged. In this case, it's going to be in the 2016 year, the total amount that they have given, the percentage, in other words, what percentage of the amount they have pledged that they have actually given, as well as an over-under amount. There is a ton of other information you can include, as you see over here on the left side of the screen. We are limited to time to not discuss all of these specifically, but understand that there is a great deal of flexibility to this and viewing this in a number of different ways. The sort tab here along the top will show us the manner in which we can sort our report here. When it says giver on here, what that does is it sorts by giver number first and then alphabetically after that. So if, for example, I wanted it to be 100% alphabetically, instead of going with giver, which sorts by number first, then by name, if I wanted it 100% to be alphabetical, I would select giver name here, and that's how it will sort. You can adjust your fonts using this tab here. And there's some additional options in terms of the way that the names display on this report. A V as in visitor indicator is folks that are from the visitor module in membership. The D as in donations shows donations only givers. I'm going to go ahead and include those on my report. I'm going to click print so we'll get a preview of what this report looks like. Let me go ahead and make that page width. You'll see here this does break it down by, and it does break it down by giver number and giver name. We've got some strangeness here with our columns here. We've got percentage and over under showing up under here. Let's see if we can figure out why that is. If you come over here to your columns tab, the other thing that you can do on here is you can limit the amount of space that you have available for these using these little arrow buttons here. I'm going to try to tighten up my report here and see if I can get them all to appear on the same line here. Oh no, I cannot do that. Oh, the ones that are highlighted in black here are actually going to display on the second line regardless. Okay. The subheadings are these percentages and over under on this report. Sorry about that, folks. Let's take a look at making this a little cleaner report. I'm going to get rid of those. When you see the lines highlighted in black, in bold on here, it kind of prints them as like a little subline underneath the top line on here. And it looks like almost all of these are going to appear that way. So we'll see total pledged and total given on the top line. If we want to show, for example, the amount given prior, we can include that. Over under amounts and percentages will appear on the line underneath that. I'm going to move these down using my arrow buttons here on the right side. This one will make a little bit more sense because there's going to be a little more information that appears underneath. So it's going to show our percentage amount in the second line underneath. It's going to show our over-under amount listed under here, and any prior giving will be listed here. As you see here with Mr. and Mrs. William Bell, you'll see that they had a prior amount given in the prior year. There are a number of different formats that you can use for this report. We unfortunately do not have the time to dig through all of this and find all of the different options here, but that is the functionality of that report there. The next report we want to take a look at is the campaign comparison report. This report here allows you to, just what it says, compare campaigns from different years with each other. A common way that you will do that, we've got our 2017 general fund that we've created a campaign for. You select that on here and click on your little right arrow. You'll see that listed as campaign 1 when we print this report. And we'll do the same thing for General Fund 2016. This is going to allow us to compare our pledging here in the 2017 year versus our pledging in 2016 for our General Operating Fund. When we click Print on here, it will show us, let me go ahead and show that view. By person, it'll show the amount pledged and given in 2017 in the first column, the amount pledged and given in 2016 in the second columns here, the pledged amount different, the given amount different, and the percentage difference here. Of course, there are different columns that you can include for this report to customize the way that you see this one as well. Okay. As we see here, there's a few other things you can include on this. If you don't want to see, for example, if you're only interested in the amount pledged for this report, we can remove the amount given from this, the difference amount given, and we can view this. Oh, amount difference given we'd have to get rid of as well. So this one will just be a pledging only report. So you do have the ability to customize the type of information that you're going to display on that report. But the general gist of this is you're comparing amounts given and pledged to campaigns across the years. Kind of lets you know how you're doing over the course of years. Okay. So the next one is the giving comparison report. This report works similarly to the campaign comparison report, only it compares amounts given across multiple years for the folks who give. This one is a little bit more granular in the way that it works because this allows you to set your own separate date ranges. So the way that this works, at the top here, it's going to give you separate date ranges that you can compare across. So here in our training data for our presentation today, we've got data through the end of January. So I'm going to go January 1st, 2017. hit my tab key on my keyboard through January 31st, 2017. You click your apply dates, and you'll see that show up down here at the bottom as the first time period that you're going to compare. If I wanted to compare January of this year versus January of last year, I can just click on my minus year button here. It keeps my dates the same in terms of day and month, but reverts the year back to 2016. If I click on apply dates, it'll show that at the bottom as well. Again, you can filter by givers, by accounts, etc., much like you can for the other reports that we're talking about here today. Clicking print takes us to this window, where we see individual by individual the amount given to these different giving accounts for the 2017 year versus the 2016 year. So here's Lucy Page giving to the general fund. Here's the amount she gave in 2017 versus the amount she gave in 2016, and the difference will be listed here. If you have multiple giving accounts like Mel here with general and building fund, it will compare both of those and it will give you a total. You can set up even further comparisons. If you wanted to keep going back to 2015, you could do that. But the report kind of really blows up from there because now it's going to compare 2016 to 2017 in the difference given column, as well as 2016 to 2015 in the last column on this report. So, also, I do want to point out that it does show by individual, but if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of your report, there's a total that you get at the end. And we've got 16 pages here. And it is giving us our totals at the bottom. So the total in 2017 is listed here, the total in 2016, the total in 2015 here, and then your comparison columns are here. So if you scroll to the bottom of any of these reports, you will also get totals listed there. Okay. The next report we want to take a look at is the STEP report. Now what the STEP report here is designed to do, now this allows you to take a look at giving in certain amounts or pledging in certain amounts, as well as the number of people that meet that what we call a STEP. So I'm going to go ahead and set this back to our 2016 year by clicking on my minus year button here. I'm going to set this to giving so that I can take a look at different steps for giving across these years. But then what you want to do over here on the right side is you define your own steps, your giving steps right here. So notice the first column is for low. So my first column is going to start with 0. You hit your tab key on your keyboard and it skips you down to the second line. So there's going to be one column for 0 through, and I'm going to set this to 1 penny. So 1 penny through, what's the first amount? Let's set it through 10 bucks. So then it'll be $10 through, you can set your next amount, I'll call it 20 bucks, 50, 100, 250, 500. So you set your own steps for this report here. Let's set my last step to like 1,000. So you see the first step, you're going to see 0 through 0, a penny through $9.99, 10 bucks through $19.99, etc. Now there are different ways to view this. If you do want to see the individual people in a particular step, that's the way it's going to report by default. If you only wanted to see it as a summary only, you would check the summary only checkbox here. So I'm going to start by looking at the summary only version of this. Then we'll go ahead and take a look at with the detail. So 68 people without giving, 3 people in this count for 10 through 1999, 6 for the next count, 9 for the next count, etc. So it allows you to break it down by amount groupings for a particular time period. The version of it that actually shows the people in it is going to look like this. So you've got your header at the top here where it's got 0 through 0. Then it's going to list all the folks under it. As we scroll down, there's our $10 through $19. There's the $3, 3 people who fit into there, etc., etc. Okay, so that's our step report that allows us to kind of break it down by different amount groupings. Last report we want to take a look at here in our very brief presentation is the statistical report. Statistical report is very nice because it shows us basically donation batches, the dates that they were posted, the amounts that they were posted for. If I come to my filter tab here, I'm going to set this to my 2016 year through. So, and the default version of this report looks like this. It's going to give us our January month, each of the batches that we had posted for that month, the total amount, and the average per gift is also listed in this view. So this is a nice thumbnail summary of all of our batches that we have in a particular time period here in the donations module. The other view here is this what's called this vertical layout. Some folks like this one. Not my cup of tea, but it goes down the page as opposed to across. So there's our January, each of those dates, total and average in columns in this version of the report. All right, folks, that is what we have to discuss today on the Compare and Analyze. Again, these webinars are 20 minutes in length, so that's all the time we have here for you guys today. So I'd like to thank you guys so much for joining me here. If you're all set to get on with your day, feel free to go ahead and click on the X in the upper right-hand corner of your GoToWebinar control panel. That'll exit you out of the room, and you can go ahead and get on with it for the rest of your day here. I'm going to leave the room open for a bit for any questions that might have come through as we go. So feel free to hang on if you wish to for this part here. Thanks, everybody.